everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married.
Hi.
This is the SweetTeaNoShade knitting podcast.
It is.
It's
We've been on...
not a... Okay, I can see myself staring at the screen. I'm going to try not to do that.
Okay.
It's neither a pod nor a cast. It is a vlog about knitting. It is not about the cure for the common cold.
God, that would be really nice. We have both been sick.
Yes. So we haven't done an episode. Okay, we have to look at the camera,
Mhm.
not at the screen, because I want to look at the screen real bad. It has been, I don't know, like 5 weeks,
Could be.
a month, something like that, since we did our last episode. And there's many reasons for that. One of the main ones being that the work that I do, I work in healthcare IT, and the company that I work for acquired a hospital up north in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, which is Judy Garland's hometown. For those of you who don't know, what was her real name?
Francis Gum.
Francis Gum. Francis Gum's hometown. And
I
I think you're right.
Okay.
And she, this has nothing to do with Dorothy. So we put that hospital, I work in IT, so I can talk bad about IT. We put them through the fun of switching all their computer systems over from what they were using to my company's. So I got to be up there for that and work overnight shifts, and it was very fun. So I was up there for a while. I got really, really sick with a cold, right? Like the last day. Okay, I'm having the most awful hair day. I don't have much hair, but the
Mine
hair
is
that I
bad
do
too.
have,
We're in it together.
It's
Mine.
awful.
I was gonna wear a hat because my hair is so stupid looking.
What is this tuft? Like,
Oh.
anyway.
And then so
What we're
Scott.
talking- oh, yeah.
Scott got real sick, and then came back, and then I got his real sickness.
And
It
we
was-
never get each other sick. Like when we
Right.
have a cold, we never get
We
each
generally
other
are immune from each other's cooties.
sick. Yeah, and
but
for some reason, I think it's the up north.
the super germs
Super germs from rural Minnesota. So we're back and feeling good. You're feeling good, almost 100%.
87%.
Very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And we're knitting like
Yes.
crazy, and so we thought we'd talk about knitting, since that's what this is about.
Right.
So let's talk about finished objects
Yes.
first. So these are things that we finished since the last episode. I have 2.
I have one.
You have a big one.
Mhm.
Okay, so do you want me to go first so I can be like da-da-da?
Sure.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first one is this hat. This is the Revolution watch cap by insert designer at the bottom of the screen. I can't remember the name of the designer. It is from I think,
Rib magazine.
Rib magazine, the 3rd issue of Rib magazine.
Sure.
And this hat is a lesson in picking the right yarn for the project. And this was the wrong yarn for 2 reasons.
It's really pretty.
Well, thank you.
It's
But
really pretty yarn.
It's really pretty yarn. There's 2 problems. One is the hat is busy. It's variegated with blacks and grays and blues and whatever, and you can't see the pattern. The whole point of this hat is it's sequence knitting, which is where you get off one stitch and it creates a spiral. You can kind of see the spiral a little bit. The lighting's not good, but anyway, you can. Yeah, you can't see it at all. There's this fancy spiral pattern. I'll try to put in a picture of what it's supposed to look like, but if you were going to do this and you really wanted the pattern to show up, you'd want to pick a solid color yarn, and you'd want to pick something with a, I think it's like, what's it called, a tight
Right.
twist.
So it's not fuzzy.
So it's not fuzzy, and it's a tight twist so that you can really see your stitch definition. You can see the stuff at the top, the ribbing at the top that creates the crown. It's a pretty cool crown, but then you can see the ribbing around the bottom, but the spirally stuff in the middle you can't see at all. Okay, that was the first problem. The second problem is the content. So this is Manos del Uruguay. Yeah. So I bought it in Uruguay actually, in Montevideo, and it has wool and silk. It's their silk blend. Silk blend is the name of the line of yarn. What do they call that? It's the base, I think. Anyway, it's their silk blend base, which is wool and silk. And I think there might be something else in it, I don't know. But it's very drapey. And I used this same base, but in a different colorway for the buy it shawl that I did. And that was perfect for a shawl. It was drapey and beautiful and shiny, and not for a hat. So it was a little big, I think, to begin with, and then I washed it, or I hand washed or whatever, washed and blocked it, and it got bigger, and it's limp. So there's no squish, there's no ease to it. So like,
it's a slouch hat. Those are really cool right now.
Yeah, but
all the hip kids are wearing them.
I don't know. So it looks like I should wear it like that.
It looks like a dwarf hat.
So, you mean a gnome?
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, it's nice and it's warm.
If you had big hair, it'd be perfect. And you can that looks good.
Yeah, I mean I like it. It's just not the perfect hat or yarn for the hat. So
yeah,
so that was just a lesson. It took me a while to do because everybody talks on other podcasts and stuff. They talk about I whipped this hat out in a day, and I think this is not a fingering weight. I think it's like a DK weight. I can't ever remember all the different weights, but it's bigger than a fingering weight, but it's not bulky or anything like that. And so people are always like, I just whipped this hat out in a day. It took me forever, and I think that has to do a lot with the pattern, the sequence patterning, and the whole hat is knit 3, purl 3, but you just get off the number of stitches in a round, and so that's what causes the spiral. But so it was knit 3, purl 3 the whole hat, and so anyway, lesson learned. But yeah, like John said, I mean, it's still wearable, and
it's still wearable. It's still really pretty. It's just not what you envisioned it when you made it.
Right, exactly. So, what do you got?
Oh my God! Okay, so this is I think last episode we talked about the.
Can we just talk about this the weirdness?
Okay, no one cares.
Okay, no one cares. Keep going.
Really,
I all Scott, 4 hairs that I have.
I'm your husband, and I super don't care.
Okay,
all right.
I'll stop talking about it.
I know this is my time. So anyway, we were doing the Craftvent calendar, and I finished my shawl.
Okay, you gotta explain what the Craftvent calendar is and where. It
so this Christmas, Betty Ann sent us for Christmas the Jimmy Bean's Wool Craftvent calendar, which is a kit which is set up like an advent calendar. So there's 24 little drawers. Every drawer has a little doodad in it. One drawer had the needles. One drawer had the different types of yarn. And so you just kept pulling out the drawers as you approached it, and you made a shawl.
And Betty Ann is my mother for those.
Oh yeah,
that
right.
Know.
Sorry.
Infamous Betty Ann.
And so it was really fun. I've never done a shawl before, and it was a lot of fun. And I think we talked about this last time, but I didn't gauge it, and as a result,
I don't know if people really gauge shawls.
Well, except.
Oh, that's right.
Girl.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it interactive.
Right, but you're
sub.
You're inserting yourself in places where you don't need to be inserted.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm enraptured with your topic.
So anyway, because it's a shawl, you don't really gauge it because it's not fitted, right? But they give you a specific amount of yarn for each section, and I was fast running out of yarn every section. So what I did is I had this skein of copper corgi on the tiles, which we'd bought in Georgia, and I basically used it to do a stripe pattern throughout the shawl. So the way it is...
Do you want to talk about where you got that idea from? Because I think that's really interesting and helpful for people.
Yeah. I actually went on the message boards, and people...
So was that on Ravelry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a Ravelry group dedicated to the shawl, because I can't keep spoilers well enough alone. So if you were doing this, ideally, it's like supposed to be a big surprise. So you do each section and like, oh wow, look at this. But I was like getting nervous, so I started looking and seeing what was going on, and a lot of people were running a little short. So it's the way it works is there's kind of these gray colors, which are like long, which are the big sections, and there's like these lace sections, which are different.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Different colors, and people mentioned they were going a little short on the colored sections, the greens in this case. And so what some people said they were doing is just picking up something from their stash and either using that for the colors or doing stripes in there. So what I did is it was super fun. I pulled out my all the different yarn colors, and then just kind of took all these skeins in our stash and found one that I thought went well with all of them. So you can sort of see the stripes in there, and Scott will of course make some really pretty pictures at some point too.
And you have a project page on Ravelry, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, but it knit out really, really nicely. It has this little fringy border, and I did the top border on the tiles, copper corgi. And yeah, it's for my sister, and now that we've shown it off on the podcast, I can finally mail it to her. But it was really fun. I mean, I was just sort of obsessively knit on it it was basically a monogamous knit for about a month. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It was, of course, it's garter stitch and this lace, so like when we blocked it, it grew like 8 million times bigger than it was when it was just on the needles, and super fun.
So I was watching who was it? Podcast about superwash wool.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the grocery girls now have a thing on Craftsy that they do,
mm-hmm.
and they talked about superwash wool,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that superwash wool grows like, especially if it's done in like garter or something,
mm-hmm.
it grows like 30%.
Mm-hmm.
It over,
Yeah.
grows 30%. I don't know if that's true of all wool
mm-hmm.
or if that's specific to superwash, but I mean, you could definitely tell it in something like like a shawl.
For sure. It was really fun, and
What needles did you use?
the needles I supplied,
right.
they were Knitter's Pride, I think, circular 2s.
I've still got mine, so I can show
Yeah.
them. They're 3s.
3s.
It doesn't. So which is U.S. size 3, 3.25 millimeter. I don't see the brand. But...
They're Knitter's Pride.
Oh, they're Knitter's. Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
I'm 40% sure. So, yeah, and there's only one major error, which was not my fault. So I don't know if you.
How does that work?
I don't know if we talked about this, but we have 2 cats. We love them. They love yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And either that or we get defective yarn. So we'll come back to a project, and all of a sudden our yarn is split, and it's wet.
Wet on both ends. That's got to be the yarn. That
Couldn't be the cat eating the yarn.
Couldn't be cat spit that's making the yarn.
So anyway, for one of these sections, they, I think this sparkly section up here, someone decided to snack on my yarn, and then I did this thing where I did the magic knot back together.
Oh, that's right.
And I think my magic knot was not magical because it sort of, I looked down, all of a sudden there's a big old hole in my yarn in my pattern. But I just sort of tied it together, and you can sort of see it back here. Not really at all. But yeah, I sort of tied it back together. It was fine. So yeah, no one will notice it's on the wrong side. But yeah, I'm very, very happy with it. I will probably do another shawl at some point. 'Cause it was a nice mix. I think with the lace pattern was, you know, busy, and there was also this border pattern which you had to do every row. But like a lot of it was just friggin' knit, 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 knit. So it was really great for just kind of sitting around knitting and not paying attention to what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
I think we'll go out of order a little bit, and I'll show mine.
Yeah.
Even though it's not done. Going out of order meaning I'm not going to show a finished object because mine's still in progress.
right.
I got distracted by knitting another project that I'll show in a minute. But so as John mentioned, my mom got. Okay, so as we're, what?
I have something else to talk about this.
Oh, okay. Yes, please do.
So I have joined the 2008, and I'm now on Instagram.
Oh yes, John's now on Instagram.
Yay! So this is the first project I posted on my Instagram page.
So let's talk about, we always forget to do this. So, SweetTeaNoShade. I am SweetTeaNoShade on Ravelry and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a group for the podcast, although I don't really do much with the group. And I think that's what we're on YouTube, is SweetTeaNoShade.
Mm-hmm. I'm on Ravelry as ILoveYouIKnow. It's my Ravelry handle.
Yeah, sure.
And my Instagram is John Asbury, Azbury, which is a squished together version of our last names.
Right. Took our part of my last name and part of his last name, smushed it together.
Yeah.
So, so you were saying that you're on Ravelry.
Yeah, and so this Instagram. Just got on Instagram, which is really fun because, all right, this is something that you sort of turned me on. Facebook is kind of not giving me life these days.
It's pretty much all politics.
It's all politics, and I mean that's fine, but sometimes I don't need to know what's going on in the world. I just want to look at fun stuff. And Scott said, go on Instagram and just follow people who knit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've done. So, I have my own 8 posts up. It's not a lot, but
you post more than I do, I think.
Yeah, that's because I'm obsessed with the. Does that help?
Yeah. Sorry, there was a reflection in the window that was bothering.
Right. So it's just nice because so the more I follow someone, I make sure their feed is 70% knitting. Because I don't want to know anything else, and I just use it, and it's a nice relaxing thing. I just look at knitted stuff, and it's relaxing, it's nice, and it's fun. So it's social media the way it's supposed to be, which is enjoyable.
Yes.
So, anyway, very happy about the shawl. That's all.
Yeah. So, the Craftvent calendar that came from Jimmy Bean's Wool, my mom bought us each one, and then she bought one for herself, and each of them had a different color scheme for the shawl.
The grays were the same.
That's right. The grays were the same, and you can see from John's shawl that the bottom is the lightest, then it goes to this medium one, then it goes to a little bit darker, and then there's finally this charcoaly with stellina in it. So that is... but John's other colors are green. Mine are more purpley maroon based. And so, I'll show you mine.
And you're also doing the same thing I did with adding a color in.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that. So, here's mine. And you can see this color is the same and that color. All these grays are the same as John's, but mine are my other colors are different. So what I've done, and I might have to put pictures in because you can't really. I've been knitting with giant yarn and not giant yarn, but big yarn and big needles. So this looks tiny to me. So, there, you can kind of see
Yeah.
that. So what I've done is, like, for my first stripe, it was a maroon color, and it was a maroon color, and then I striped. Oh, there we go. You can see it really good there.
Mm-hmm.
So I put I put a yarn. I striped it in, because otherwise it would have been solid maroon, which would have been fine, but, I just wanted to do kind of copy John, because I really like the idea.
Mm-hmm.
This is the yarn that I striped it with, so you can tell it's super multicolored. Then it's more of a purpley color, so then I instead of doing multiple stripes, I just did one stripe down the center.
Mm-hmm.
And then this yarn actually came with the kit, and I'm not striping it at all. It's kind of like this multicolored one, but it's toned down a little bit. So it's this.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like this. So it's kind of like this, but not as crazy. So then I'll have this, and then the border is supposed to be in a bright orange.
Mm-hmm.
That's my last color, which I think I'll probably use. You didn't use yours. Yours
No.
was like a bright green,
Right.
like a neon green.
Yeah, I liked the on the tile stuff a lot.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what I'm doing with mine, and I think I'm going to give mine to my personal trainer at work, just because she's awesome and I like her a lot. So that's mine.
yeah.
So hopefully in our next episode this will be done. Alright, so why don't I go ahead and talk about my socks? So
Yeah.
I'll just talk about this quickly. So I finished, I don't think I showed these last time. I think I showed one finished
Right.
one last time, and now I've got the pair done.
Mm-hmm.
They're the Rose City Rollers. People call them shorty socks. I call them ankle socks. And I used, where did my thing go? I thought I had the,
Bag.
no, I thought I had the sock blank. That's okay. It's the sock blank. Okay, so sorry about that.
We're back.
Some technical difficulties. So Rose City Rollers ankle socks. I grabbed the sock blank, and this is the sock blank that it came from. And I can't remember the name of the maker who did this. It was like Farmer's Daughter or Montana Farmer's Daughter, something like that. And I bought it at the Fuzzy Goat in Thomasville, Georgia, which is where we did a retreat. But I really like the way it knitted up. And then the toes I did in, I think it was a copper corgi yarn.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a rounded toe rather than a square toe. Usually I do a square toe, but I did a rounded toe this time. And then the Rose City Rollers have a heel flap gusset construction, so that's been fun to do. And you're going to talk about socks that you're working on. Actually, why don't we do that now?
Sure. We're going to whips.
Well,
Or just
kinda
sort of
all over
organic
the
though.
place, yeah.
So I have decided I am going to make my first pair of socks. Yay! So I got, this is the yarn, and I'm just doing, it is Parcel Tongue Sensible Sock, which I bought at Lila and Claudine's, and
Which is in Matamidi, Minnesota.
Yeah. And so this is what it looks like. It's, not too far along. But then I'm just using, so Scott, it's really pretty. I like it a lot. But so Scott has sort of figured out my sock recipe, so I'm just doing that. So I'm going to start this is the rib area. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
The rib is
Well, the cuff.
the cuff is done, and so I'm going to start on the main body
leg.
of the leg of the sock in a bit. So
And you're gonna do. He's doing magic loop,
2x2 rib,
2x2 rib,
and then it goes to a 6x2 rib.
That's right, 6x2 rib for the leg. That kind of keeps it snug, and then you're gonna stop.
And then I'm gonna do the afterthought hoe and teal and hoe.
Toe and heel.
Toe and heel.
The toe's not afterthought.
Oh, the heel is
afterthought.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's 64 stitches.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're using Chalgoos.
Interchangeable. I think it's on
No,
ones.
these aren't interchangeable.
No, I think they're ones though.
Okay.
So yeah, those are coming along just fine. I have my doing things in fingering weight issue, which is you work for a long time and the progress is so incremental. It's, but I like it. It'll be fine. And again, the ribbing always takes a little long. The ribbing is taking a little longer because it's 2x2.
Yeah.
So once I get into the 6x2, that should go a little faster.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing you could do is just do a vanilla sock, which is just straight knitting. I
really like how the ones with the rib all the way down fit. So yeah. I'm going to keep to that.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
Cool. So I don't have, well, that's not true. I do have a pair of socks on the needle. They're a gift. I haven't done anything since the last time I showed them because I've had other projects on the needles. But another project I'm working on is, well, the final project I'm working on actively right now is a hat. And it's a pattern by Baba Yaga, who has a podcast. And so after Christmas, I was cleaning up going through all of our Christmas stuff and like throwing away broken stuff and donating, stuff that we never put out anymore, and just kind of consolidating and organizing our Christmas stuff. And I found a a Rubbermaid tote full of yarn that we had bought in the past. And it's yarn that we bought before we discovered real wool and discovered the magic that is like knitting with real wool and expensive yarn. So we have this huge tote full of less expensive yarn, mostly acrylic. And so I'm like, I hate for this to go to waste. And, you can make stuff with it and it's washable and, it's not bad. It's just, we've kind of become not total yarn snobs, but,
it's
it is what it is.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I'm going to use this stuff. I'm just going to it's Minnesota. We always need hats and gloves and mittens.
Because we are always losing hats, gloves, and mittens.
I know. We are always losing.
So we have lost one hat from Target this winter. And then we also lost the really awesome one you made in the cruise.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, so... so we've lost those two. And what happens is they usually turn up in the summer months when you're, like, cleaning some random closet or something. I'm sure everybody has this problem. So I'm like, well, I'll just do some hats and, try to do some fast stuff. And so my mom had bought Baba Yaga. I can't remember what her real name is. I feel horrible because I've talked to her, not on the phone or anything, but I've chatted with her online. And she's awesome. I can't remember her name, but she did this pattern, and it's totally tubular hat, and it's reversible, and it's kind of like a tube with crowns at either end. So, and you do it it's a reversible hat. So basically, what you do is you start, and I hope I'm not going to try not to give too many details about the pattern away, but you start with a provisional cast on. And then you do the body in one color, the brim, and then you do the brim in the other color, and the body, and then you do the crown, and then you come back and pick up the stitches from the provisional cast on and do the crown of the other color. And then it becomes a reversible, really super thick hat.
Yeah.
Which is nice because of the, and I'm going to hold it up a little bit and stop moving it around so much.
You should put it on your head so you can see what that looks like.
Yeah, and it's really big and thick, so I think it kind of looks kind of funny on my head.
No,
but
it doesn't.
Because that has more to do with, I think, the yarn that I use. Because this is good old Red Heart Super Saver and Heather Gray, and then this blue one. The blue one is the same brand, and so. It's like knitting with plastic after you've knitted with wool for a while, but that's okay. So I'm going to show you So I've still got to do the crown for the gray, but you can tuck it inside, and I can kind of show you what it's going to be like. So you can wear it kind of as a beanie style. Not a beanie style, but like a... it looks funny. But like there's the slouchy version that you can wear. I guess it doesn't look that crazy.
No.
So there's the
All
slouchy
the cool
version.
kids wear slouch hats these days.
And then if you tuck it under, you got this awesome brim, and it's got the opposite color, and then it's more of a beanie style. And you've got the other color poking out. And then if you don't want to do that, you can, you know, turn it the other side in. I got to do the crown on the other one. But and then you can have the...
Like that.
Like that. And so I think she did a episode where she walked through the pattern or, you know, displayed the pattern or whatever. I haven't watched it yet. My mom told me about it. And so, but I really like the way she did the crown on this. And I don't know if you can really see it, but I really like the crown. I don't know, I love the crown of hats. I just think they're awesome. So yeah, this has been really fast, and it's been so nice just to knit something that I know I'm going to use, and then promptly lose and leave it on the bus or something. But yeah, it's been super fun. I really like the pattern, and I think that the yarn is cool.
Yeah, I like the colors together a lot.
Yeah. So and as you can see, a lot of it is just straight knitting in the round, and so I've been doing this magic loop. It calls for a couple different sizes. I did swatch for this, and so I did not get gauge, and rather than, I wanted to stick to the needle sizes that she recommends in the pattern, but so what I did was, because it's a hat, I just went down the number of stitches within the pattern. So, you know, there's a certain number of stitches to make the round work and to make the brim work and to make the crown work or whatever, and I just adapted it by going down an appropriate number of stitches from there. And so I'm using my Chow Glue interchangeables. Yeah, so really I'm excited. I'll probably get this done in the next day or two.
Yeah.
And then
still in time for winter.
Still in time for winter. Ugh. Yeah, because I don't know about I heard somebody, I think it was, I forget what her name is, but the woman that does the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, she was talking about like, oh, you know, I have to get these done because, you know, from what I can see on Instagram and what I can see on the weather and stuff, it's like, you know, it's getting to be springtime. And I was like, well,
we got a while.
I don't know. We got, on the Friday and Saturday, we got a foot of snow.
Not cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's Minnesota. We're used to the winter. So it'll probably, I mean, it usually snows into April. Yeah. Sometimes May, but not always. Yeah. And so.
But winter lasts well into March here.
Yeah. So I'll have time to wear this, and then the next thing I'm going to put on the needles. Well, I'm going to finish my shawl, but then the next thing I'm going to put on the needles we'll talk about in a minute.
All right.
Oh, so, I'm sorry. One more thing. This bag is an original Nurse Cody bag. So, for the Cody, oh, sorry.
That's our dryer.
That's our dryer. We've probably had that awful dryer sound in the back of the whole episode. Oh well.
Yeah. We'll dub over it.
So Cody Knits podcast. He came to the same knitting retreat that we were in Georgia, and he gave us this bag. He gave me one and John one. And yours is the reverse of these colors, I think.
I think so.
So I'm keeping this hat project in my Cody bag.
Yay! So this is my project. This is fun because sometimes you do projects in preparation for projects. Not in this bag though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that the one you just pulled out?
So there is a sweater hoodie that I really want to make.
The sweater. Do you want to say who the designer is?
Is it Josh Bennett, or is it Jared?
Are you talking about Rosso Cardinale?
No. This is the one I got the Vogue knitting from.
It's not the Italian guy?
No, it's.
Sorry, guys, for the dryer in the background. I was totally confused.
Yeah.
Rosso Cardinale is a guy on Instagram who does knitting patterns.
Yeah.
Really cool knitting patterns. He was on an Italian TV show, and he posted the interview.
Mm-hmm.
He's speaking in Italian, but
Right.
I'll have to show you that.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
it's a
total segue. Sorry.
Yeah. So they're both. So this is, I think it's Josh Bennett. So this it's a marled hoodie basically, but you're using 3 strands of yarn to do the marling.
Why is that? Is it just to make the pattern?
It makes it thick, and then it also so you have one real. So basically, you're using 2 strands of one color and 1 strand of an accent color. So it keeps the weight, the color, the main color really heavy with little changes.
Is it fingering weight? Are the 3 colors? They must be.
They must be. I don't know. I haven't looked at the pattern. But anyway, it's marled knitting, which I've never done. So I'm like, well, let's try marled knitting. So what I did is I have this 2 skeins of yarn. This is some alpaca that I got at the state fair that I've started knitting a project with, but it's super thin and super. It was making me crazy. That was the one I was trying to.
Something I've learned about different fibers is the alpaca. I mean, people usually don't knit with 100% alpaca.
Yeah.
Alpaca is typically blended with wool, or it's held like you're doing.
Yeah. So I mean, I love this color. I really want to do something with it. And so we got this yarn. It was from. Where are you from?
The alpaca?
No, the alpaca's from
3 alpacas.
3 alpacas in Minnesota, and then the this yarn was, I can't remember what this is from.
You got it from
Lila Clintons. So it's this kind of brown variegated yarn. I really liked how it looked together, and so basically what I'm doing is I'm doing a marled knit hat, and what's really fun is
it's so cool looking.
I love it because it's got some buzz, it's got the gold, and it's really thick. And the other thing is because I'm doing it so the thing I was worried about is like with the marled knitting, you're holding the 2 yarns together, and I'm like, that seems difficult. But I'm doing it with Portuguese knitting, and so what happens is instead of having to hold the yarns together, I just put them through my little pin, and that does it keeps everything.
Let's get this out of the way so people can see.
So when I knit, instead of having to worry about are the yarns together, the pin, 2 yarns with the pin, and that keeps the yarns together. So it just makes knitting with more than 1 yarn so easy. So yeah, I love it.
Did you say what the pattern was?
This is just John's hat pattern.
Oh, how did you know how many stitches to make?
I measured my head and swatched.
Fancy.
Yeah, it's like the one I yeah.
So you're just doing a vanilla.
Yeah, this is a really with a 2x2 rib at the bottom, and then.
And then you're gonna do.
And then I'm just gonna close it up at the top. So I love it.
You should do the Baba Yaga crown. I'll tell you what her pattern
Oh,
was.
sure, that'd be fun.
It was a really neat.
I
like the way she
I like
did
hybriding.
How many stitches did you do?
64, I think.
That's all? 64 is like the amount of stitches on a sock.
This is pretty thick yarn, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's double. And the other thing I was trying to do is, so again, in preparation for this other pattern, which calls for tubular cast ons. So I was going to try to do a tubular cast on, and I decided they're really hard and really complicated, and I was stressing out. I was going to start this hat, but I kept freaking out into the tubular cast on. I went to a sockmatician video and had gotten to the point where I had kind of all the steps worked out. And then I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to do a long tail cast on and just be okay with it. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. Again, it's been pretty quick. This has been my bus knit. Although, what I found, you can't really see this, but knitting on the bus, you probably can't see it, But when I knit on the bus, I knit so much more tightly than when I'm like knitting at home watching TV. So like these stitches at the bottom right there, you can actually get better in the...
Oh, yeah.
If you look at
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I guess because on the bus, I'm like super...
Yeah,
you know,
bouncing up and down.
bouncing up and down, trying to adjust, and I'm sort of scrunched in this little seat. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess this won't be my bus knit because...
What size needles are they?
These are Knitter's Pride 3s? Yeah, they're 3s.
That looks bigger than a 3.
I don't know.
Because these are
Hang on.
These are 8s. If only there was a tool that we could use to
Let's
measure.
see, what are these? These are not 5s. Maybe they're 6s? No. They're 6s.
Okay, I was going to say, because these are 8s.
Yeah, they're either 6s or... They're 6s.
Okay. So that makes sense then as to why it's so few stitches. Because I mean, with all the hats that I've done, now that I've done 1.5...
You've done 2.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did finish
You've
another
done 2
one.
3/4.
2 3/4. 2
Good for
3/4
you.
hats. I'm a hat master. It's like around 100 or so stitches, but maybe that's specific with fingering weight yarns that it's that many.
Yeah.
Stitches.
So I like it. I love the way that I like the fact that it's both the variegated yarn here, which is kind of goes from a dark brown to a light brown to almost this bluish gray. And then you have this gold. I feel like this is very pumpkin spice latte. Like it's the color. This is like the color. This hat is an autumn hat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's interesting how different the yarns are because this is almost like a rusticy wool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not rustic. I shouldn't say that, but it's. I don't know. It's wool, you know, and it's soft, but it's a little rough.
Right.
And then there's this alpaca, which is
like super
soft, but also limp. It doesn't have a lot of body to it, and so when you add them
together, there's this really.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And what else was I gonna say? Something really important.
Well, and the variation in the yarn, in this yarn, is emphasized by this yarn.
And what I like, I mean, it looks like, to me, what I like about it is it looks like it could be a single yarn. Mm-hmm. But yeah, super fun, really fun to knit, going along really quickly. And it's prepping me for, a project I'm going to do probably in about a year and a half. But it's also one of those ones, so, yeah, I'm very happy with it. It'll be done, I think, pretty soon.
Alright, so that's all we have for stuff in progress and finished objects, right? Mm-hmm. So now, we get to talk about something very exciting.
Do we have a Betty Ann update?
Well, yeah, sure, let's do Betty Ann update.
Yeah, she'll pout.
She will pout. Betty Ann update. So Betty Ann's my mom, and
tell her. You should have a little preface about Betty Ann. She's an
enabler.
Mm-hmm.
She's a lot of work. She is crazy. She got a new hip.
Yes,
I'm sure she's like super happy that I'm talking about
She's a cyborg now.
She's a cyborg. She's a Terminator. So we are doing a big trip to Italy with my family and potentially members of your family because my mom and her sisters and her parents, when my grandfather was in the Air Force, they lived in Italy for a while, and so we're going to be taking a big trip to Italy. Mm-hmm. And so now that she has a new hip, and my aunt has a new hip, they can get around a lot better. And so she's recently, one thing that she and I talked about was the fact that with me and you being so sick with a cold and then her having her hip replaced, like I kept thinking, oh, I can't wait till I get a cold and I can stay home or I get sick and I can stay home from work because then I'll just knit all day long. I did not have the energy to knit.
No,
that was not something I was like,
this was a hardcore.
Like all I did was sleep for 3 days. She's kind of going through the same thing right now, where she doesn't have a lot of energy to do a lot of knitting, and I don't actually know what she's working on right now. But yeah, so she's a cyborg, and yeah, I guess that's the exciting Betty Ann update.
Yeah, and we're gonna visit her in Atlanta in May.
Oh, that's right. So we were gonna do another knitting retreat, but in an effort to save money and do something a little different, we're gonna meet up in Atlanta. She lives about 3.5 hours south of Atlanta, so she and my aunt are going to meet us in Atlanta. We're going to fly to Atlanta, and we're going to go to the Georgia Aquarium. We're going to see Cody from the Cody Knits podcast.
We're going to the Coke Museum.
Oh yeah, you've not done that, have you?
No, and I've heard it's legendary.
Yeah, and we have a friend who the global headquarters for Coca-Cola is in Atlanta, so we'll do that. And so we have a friend who works for Coca-Cola, so we'll try to visit him. He doesn't know that yet, but.
We popped into him before. He's a good sport.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll get to see her then, and maybe we'll get her on camera. Maybe I'll have to be stealth about it.
We'll do an ambush podcast. We'll sit around talking about knitting.
Because the goal is to sit around and knit a lot together in the hotel.
We could take a hidden camera, and then we could do a secret and she won't know.
Yeah, well, welcome to the SweetTeaNoShade podcast.
While she's in the other room.
Yeah.
Oh, we just gave away the surprise. Shoot.
She won't remember.
I forget that your mom.
Old. She's old. She won't remember. She's okay, I gotta stop because
I know this is.
I'm gonna get beat up. Okay, so what else? Oh, so we're doing another knit along. We had so much fun with our last knit along, and we did put it on your hand. We did handwear. So
let's talk about some ideas that people suggested that were actually kind of fun. We had someone who wanted to do it. We had a suggestion of a spring into spring.
We had asked for some ideas, and we never promised that we were going to use them this time. We might use them in the future. But anyway, go ahead.
Spring into spring was actually a really good one, except I felt like it would depress me.
Yeah, because we don't have spring.
We don't have... We neither...
We do have spring.
We do have spring, but it lasts about 2 weeks.
It starts in June.
Right, so in order to make that one work, we have to do it in May. And then we had one where someone suggested doing a knit-along where you sort of highlighted sort of a style of knitting from your ethnic...
or your
regional background or something like that.
Oh.
I thought it'd be really cool.
If I did that, I would have to crochet.
Right.
Because crochet seems to be... I mean, I can totally... It felt to me growing up that crochet was what everybody did.
Right.
More so than knitting.
Right.
But that could have been just my family.
Right. Or you could just do stuff in orange, like peaches.
Or I could do stuff in peach.
Or oranges.
Since peach is a color.
Shut up, no one likes you. Oh my goodness.
So, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
That's a really good one. We might have to do that.
We'll probably do that, because I like the idea of, I love the, and I think we could do, it doesn't from your, or just demonstrating a certain style of knitting. I've been looking at all this stuff that has all this stuff like that, Andean knitting, so the Peruvian and stuff like that. I think it'd be really a fun thing to do. Just all those different types.
So it doesn't have to be yours per se, but it could be.
And then I was looking at Turkish knitting, which isn't really a style of knitting, but kind of a type of color work and pattern and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that one.
There's a whole Ravelry section that has different. You can look for patterns with different styles of knitting.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
Super fun.
But none of that is what we're going to do.
No, but fun ideas and
fun ideas, and we'll maybe do them for the future. So. This is where I get off track by asking John for ideas. So John has decided that we are going to do a...
Cowl Cal.
Just because it's fun to say.
Well, because when we were talking about the cowl last time, I thought you were saying cowl half the time. And so I would get why are we talking about cowls? We're talking about a knit-along.
So, because of John, we're doing a cowl.
Isn't that hilarious?
Okay, and you know what's funny is
I think also because cowls tend to be one of the first things you make as a knitter.
Yeah.
Because it's basically a connected scarf.
Yeah.
Or a hat without a crown. So it's kind of a fun thing to revisit.
Well, and I just can't. I would love to hear like people from all over the country say, or all over the world say cowl, because I bet all the different pronunciations.
How do you say cowl?
Cowl. I say it as almost 3 syllables. Cowl.
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 And you say it cowl? How
Cowl.
do you say it? And, you know.
Almost like cow.
Cow. Cow. And
Cowl.
Cowl. Cow.
Cowl. Cowl.
Now it's not. It's starting to like
It'd
not
be
sound
ridiculous.
like a word. So yeah. So any cowls count.
Mm-hmm.
Works in progress count.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a Ravelry threads for finished objects and a Ravelry thread for chatter. Oh, we're going to have 3. So the prizes. So Dye Monkey Yarns, which is Jessie.
Mm-hmm.
L'heureux. She has the Knit Up and Dye podcast. Dye Monkey Yarns is her Etsy shop, and she is donating patterns. And I can't remember. I think she is offering multiple, but I don't want to say it wrong. So I'll there. Ultimately, it's patterns of hers that she's donating, and so we're definitely going to do at least one random number generator prize, but we also are going to do. And this is completely subjective. We're going to do our favorite pattern.
Mm-hmm.
That no, we're going to do the pattern that we ourselves, out of all of them, want to knit. That you and I want to knit.
Sure.
I thought that would be a fun way to do it. Just because it's a little more subjective that way. So it's a balance of whatever. That doesn't mean it has to be the most complicated or the...
It won't be.
Or the most professional looking or whatever. No, it's completely subjective.
Right. The one that we look at and like, we want to do that one.
Yeah. Which, you know, it might as well be a random number generator because there's no way... I don't even know which one I'm going to want to do.
Right.
So have you picked one out yet?
I have a couple I'm looking at on my Ravelry page. I might want to try to do 2 because I think it'd be fun to both do the one that we were talking about doing.
Oh, that's right. We talked about maybe both. So the one I've picked out. I'll talk more about it in future episodes. But it's looks almost like the top. It looks like a turtleneck sweater. The top of a turtleneck sweater, and then it's got some cables, and it goes down to here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But what's interesting to me is what the word cowl can mean, because I think it was the 2 women that are in Dallas, Wool Slayers, the Wool Slayers podcast. She did a cowl, and it like covered her whole body. It was like a poncho. So I don't know.
Right. You also get like some ones that are just huge. Right. So.
Yeah, so we were in Stephen B's. Stephen B is. A lot of people know who Stephen B is. He owns a yarn store here in Minneapolis, and it's our local yarn store. And we were in there one time, and he comes walking out, and he had this cowl on, and the stitches were probably.
It was made with
this huge yarn. I mean, like the diameter of the yarn was probably like 3/4 of an inch or something. And so he knit this cowl out of it, and it was like he pulled it up, and it was like this giant hood. And he just comes walking out with this giant cowl on.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think I'm gonna do that one. We might end up doing the same one. And you said you might do 2.
Yeah, because I think there's that yarn I want to use for it. That we got at that I bought
at the wool mill.
Yeah, and I don't think that yarn would look good on that with that pattern.
Okay.
'Cause it's so different colory. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it'll start March 1st. And do you want to do 2 months again?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do March 1st. So that's or end of April, 30th of April.
Yeah.
So March 1st to 30th of April. And
we could do to May the 4th.
Well, but that doesn't connect up to anything.
But it's Star Wars Day.
I know, but that doesn't have anything to do with cowls. You're mixing your metaphors.
May the 4th be with you.
Anyway, so March 1st to April 30th. Whips are allowed. Each entry, I mean, like if you do multiples, you get an entry for each one. Yeah, and so Yeah, because I loved doing it. I mean, I know knit-alongs. Have we even said that Cal means knit-along?
Yes.
I hope people know that.
Pretty sure.
K-A-L, knit-along.
C-O-W-L, cowl.
C-O-W-L, cowl, K-A-L, cowl.
Cowl.
I know knit-alongs are not new things, but when we've done one, and it was handwear.
Uh-huh.
And like when I go to knit a pair of gloves, I'm going to go to our knit-along and look at all the ones that people did and pick one to do. Like I just think it's the coolest thing to see what people do, and it was so neat to talk to the people who won the 2 prizes. The woman from Germany, that was super fun, and then there was the person from California, I think.
You might finish this one. We might both finish this one on time. Because I did not finish...
It was not my fault.
It wasn't your fault, and I didn't finish
It was my fault, but it wasn't
I didn't finish my glove in time for our last knit-along. So, here, pinky swear, we will finish...
On our own knit-along.
We will submit stuff for our own knit-along.
Yes.
Okay.
And Betty Ann better submit one, too. Because she didn't finish hers in time, either. So, she needs to do a cowl.
Yeah.
For her, the cowl.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we have anything else?
I don't think so.
We talked about our trip to Atlanta coming up. Oh, that's not until May.
And we haven't really done much yarn shopping.
No. Oh, but coming up is the Minnesota Shop Hop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody from the area watches the podcast, but that comes up in April, and that is super fun. Mm-hmm. Where you go to all the different shops, and if you donate a certain amount of money to whatever their cause is, I forget what the cause is this year, but you end up getting a free pattern at each store, and then each store dyes up their own yarn that you can buy, and then you get a pin and a tote.
Yeah.
And
I think your tote is around here somewhere.
Yeah, it's over there. But
okay.
So that's like just going to be super fun. Oh, and the theme this year, did I tell you what the theme was?
Heroes, right?
Heroes, yeah. And Stephen B's yarn shop is in an old fire station, so they're doing firemen as the heroes, which is really cool. So I think that's all.
That's all.
So thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks for waiting, because we have a long time between.
And we'll be back soon.